Hi, we're live with another edition of Talk to Us Tuesday. This is our 30-minute lunchtime chat where you can ask us questions. I'm excited to be here at the Brighton Police Department. I'm joined by our police chief, Paul Southard, and our victim services manager, Kim Messina. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
So for the next 30 minutes, if you have questions for our police department or our victim services, feel free to type your questions in. We'll try and get to as many as we can, and if we don't get to you while we're live, still feel free to leave your question and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So I just want to start. Why don't you guys tell me who you are and your role and how long you've been here?
Well, I'm Paul Southard. I'm the police chief of the city of Brighton. I've been the chief for about 2.5 years now. I've actually been with the city of Brighton Police Department since 1988.
And Kim?
Yeah, my name is Kim Messina. I'm the Victim Services Manager for the Brighton and Commerce City Victim Services Unit. I've been here with the City of Brighton for about 8 years. Overall, I've been in the area of victim services for about 28 years.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you so much. I'm excited to start asking you guys questions. So, Chief, I'm going to start with you. What is the biggest challenge the department faces?
The biggest challenge the department faces, I think, is a challenge that all law enforcement agencies face, is the number of officers we have to go out and do this job. Another challenge is that exacerbates that is growth. The bigger the city gets, the more officers we need, the more territory we have to cover, and the more calls for service we receive.
And speaking of officers and having enough, I know there's a rigorous process before an officer can actually get on board. How long does it take?
It depends on where we hire them from. So we'll have some people we've recently started hiring. They haven't been certified. We send them to an academy. That's about a 4-month process, 4 or 5 month process. And then after that, they come back to us for street training. We call it police officer training. When they come back, that's another 6 months or so. So it takes us close to a year to get an officer out on the road if we hire that way. If they come to us certified, or if they come to us from another agency, it's about 4 to 6 months to train them and get them out on the road.
Okay, and this is a perfect question on this topic. Gilbert asked, he says, my question is, with Brighton growing, will we see more officers hired this year?
That's our goal. We're always hiring, even with just attrition we're hiring, but we are trying to add positions. Some of that is bound by budgets and the availability of funds, but we are always looking to the future and developing plans to hire additional officers.
Great. And again, we're here at our police department. If you have questions, please feel free to leave them and we'll try and get to your question as soon as possible. Kim, I want to move on to you. In 2014, the City of Brighton and Commerce City merged the Victim Services Unit. Why was that and how has that been working?
Yeah, so it's actually really been a win-win for both Brighton and Commerce City. I think that we looked at consolidating or bringing together our resources so that we could serve a larger group of people and have more staff. We currently have 5 victim advocate specialists on staff, and then we have 7 volunteers. And it really has been a great win for both cities.
Awesome. And can you talk to us a little bit about the role of a victim advocate?
Yeah. So our volunteers and staff go out on scene anytime that an officer has what we call a Victims' Rights Act crime. And we meet victims where they're at. We provide the support, information referral. We meet basic human needs. And we really work to help prepare and predict for what's going to happen in the next 24 or 48 hours, as well as really kind of connect them with community resources and kind of hand them off throughout the criminal justice system.
And if someone is interested in becoming an advocate, what should they do?
Yeah, well, we'd love to have anyone that's interested in being an advocate. We have some parameters. We need to be 21 years of age, have a valid driver's license. We also do a regular full background check, and we ask them to commit to 3 12-hour shifts a month. And then we also ask that they attend a monthly training/meeting.
Okay, great. We have some questions and comments coming in. So Naomi just wanted to say thank you for all you do to protect our city. I am a Brighton native. My grandparents migrated here, so I'm a third generation Brightonian. So Thank you, Naomi. Jessica has a question. What can we do about the many, many grow houses in our neighborhoods? Who can we contact with concerns and complaints?
Well, you can contact an officer. You can call our non-emergency number at 303-288-1535. They can put you in touch with an officer. You can provide the information to the officer. You can also call our investigations division at the main number of the police department, and someone can help you out with that. The best thing to do if you want to report a grow house is just to provide as much detail as you can, and why you think it's a grow house, and give as much information as you can for us to work with.
So that brings us to a question we get asked often is, with the legalization of marijuana, what are the rules about what you can grow?
The rules for grows, for personal grows, no more than 50 square feet by city ordinance. You can, or if it's in a multi-family dwelling, like a townhouse or something like that, it's no more than 35 square feet.
Okay.
And obviously no sales, nothing like that.
Okay. Another question we have, this is from Jonathan, and Jonathan asked, what are you doing to address the ever-increasing problem of speeding on Bridge Street?
We have our traffic enforcement team. We track where these complaints come from. We'll do extra patrol on those areas where people are speeding. Again, you can call and make a complaint. You can even use the request tracker in order to put that information in. Really helps if we have time of day. Maybe if you have a habitual offender, it might be the same car doing it, might be the same 2 or 3 cars doing it. Let us know so we can keep an eye out for those kind of things.
Great. Again, we're live at the police department. If you have questions about our police department or victim services, please feel free to leave your question, and we'll try and get to those while we're live. Another question we get asked a lot, especially during the summer, is residential parking, and can RVs and trailers be parked on the roadways? What is the answer to that?
RVs and trailers can be parked on the roadways, but for no more than 48 hours, and that's for the purpose of loading and unloading. Other than that, they can't be parked on the roadways. Something else I'd like to add to that is occasionally we will see an RV blocking a parking lot, or in a driveway extending out over the sidewalk. They can't block the sidewalk at all.
Okay. Good to know. And if someone has concerns, again, report it to the website or
to the call the police department or the non-emergency number.
Awesome. And Kim, back to you. So last year, Brighton and Commerce City Police Departments unveiled a new task force aimed at combating sexual assaults.
Yep.
Can you tell me about the Sexual Assault Task Force?
Yeah. So as I kind of mentioned before, we've had so much success with the Victim Services Program, increasing our resources to providing services to the community. Together, Brighton, Commerce City and Brighton wrote a grant through the I always mess this up, Strategies for Policing Innovation Initiative, which is a collaborative through the Bureau of Justice Affairs grant to put together a multi-jurisdictional sexual assault task force to increase the skills and the investigative expertise of those detectives and advocates serving victims of sexual assault.
And this is the first of its kind in Colorado, is that correct?
Yes, and actually from what we know, it's the first in the nation.
Wow.
And through this grant, it allows us to have a researcher attached to this task force, which will then give us evidence base to show that not only the task force is successful, that victims are having a better experience, but also that we're proving that the work that we're doing is best practice, and that other police departments across the nation can model the same sort of project.
And do you find other police departments reaching out to you wanting information on how it's working? And
yeah, we do actually. Through SBI, we have an opportunity to talk to many police departments across the country. We've presented at different national and international conferences about the task force, as well as we collaborate locally. I think one of the key pieces to the task force is it's really about connecting with our community partners, such as the Ralston House, the Department of human services, our community-based advocacy, our local SART team, as well as our medical forensic nurses, so that we can really have a victim-centered approach and make the best experience for victims.
Great. And we have a question for you from Jessica regarding the victim advocate volunteers. She asked, why the 12-hour shift? Any way to have a shorter, more manageable shift?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Our volunteers and staff are on call 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. So really we have found the best way to break up those shifts to get the best coverage is to do the 12-hour shifts from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the good thing about it is that you're at home, so you're not actually here in the police department the whole time, and you just respond when you're called.
Great. Okay. And Chief, I want to turn it back over to you. So tomorrow we're expecting to potentially have a blizzard, and we've been in the cold weather for some time now. So often people start their cars up in the driveway and let it warm up while they're getting ready. Tell us why that's not necessarily a good thing.
Auto theft. Auto thefts in the Adams County area, actually in the Denver metro region are up this last couple of years. When you leave your vehicle running to warm it up, to get ready to go to work, something like that is prime for theft. Stolen vehicles then often are used for other illegal activities, stealing other vehicles, robberies, thefts, shoplifts, you name it. People can use a stolen vehicle for that.
And so car break-ins are not unique to Brighton. What can people do to protect themselves?
What people can do to protect themselves is, one, is lock your car. Even if your car is locked, to hide your valuables, or don't leave any valuables in the car. Don't leave a laptop sitting on the seat. Don't leave a phone sitting in the console. Anything like that. One other thing to remember is, don't leave your garage door open or in your car overnight if it's parked outside, or any keys or anything like that.
Great. Bella asks, what if it's locked?
If it's locked and running, it can still be stolen. This last couple of years, the state legislature has modified the statute. So if you have a remote start on your vehicle where the key is not left in the vehicle, it can be left running. But if you don't have that, it's still easy enough to steal. Heard more than one story of a person standing there after they started their car. They're looking out the window to watch it as they see their car drive down the street.
Wow.
So it's not a pleasant experience, I'm sure.
Great, yeah. Kim, let's talk a little bit about the You Have Options program. Can you tell us about that and how that's working?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a program here in the city of Brighton called You Have Options. It's also implemented in Commerce City as well. We're really, really proud of this program. Every member of our law enforcement team has participated in training, talks about it. The You Have Options program is a law enforcement-led initiative in partnership with advocacy and medical services. And really what it's about is allowing victims who have experienced a unwanted sexual experience to be able to report to law enforcement or to the Brighton Police Department in a way that really works best for them. So they can come into our police department and report. They can call us on the phone. They can do it online. They can even have a friend or a parent or somebody else report for them. And again, it just really opens up the access points for victims who have had these experiences to report to us.
And how is this model different than the traditional way of handling sexual assault cases?
Well, I think a long time ago, what victims told us is that there's three barriers really to reporting sexual assault. And the first barrier is that maybe it happened and they didn't tell somebody right away. The second barrier is the confidentiality, that they just didn't want other people to know about it. So they didn't want their friends or their families to know. And then the third barrier is really they were afraid that no one would believe them. And so the You Have Options program really breaks down those barriers to reporting and allows the patrol officers, the SROs, the first person that they come in contact to take as much information as the victim wants to tell us. And then we're going to refer it to the Sex Assault Task Force. They're going to be connected with an advocate. If they need medical assistance, we'll get that right away. And we're really going to slow down this process, whereas traditionally we would go 0 to 60 and we would find that victims would disengage in our process.
What have been some of the success stories that have come out of the You Have Options program and the combined task forces?
Yeah. So one of the huge pieces about the You Have Options program is that we know that I believe it's 1 in 5 victims in the United States will experience, or 1 in 5 women will experience an unwanted sexual experience. And that whether that happened yesterday or it happened 20 years ago, victims still have that experience with them. And so some of the unique and exciting things that we've seen is that a victim who maybe was victimized 15 years ago or 20 years ago will now tell us about it, and we can then connect them with services. We've also had other victims walk in our door and say, I saw your program, I want to tell you about this, but I'm not ready to do anything. And then we connect them with an advocate. The advocate connects them with counseling, kind of finds out what the barriers are. We break down those barriers, and then they say, I'm ready to speak with a detective. So it's really opening up those access points so that we can assist the community with something that they've experienced.
And where can a person go to find out more information about the program?
So you can go to reportingoptions.org. And there's it's a whole website, and then you can look for the City of Brighton for report, or the City of Commerce City, and it'll have all of the information and options on there as well. And you can also go to the Brighton website, and it's also on there as well.
Great, thank you. Having another question that's come in, and before I ask that, it's for you, Chief. If you have questions about public safety here in Brighton or about victim services, feel free to leave your question. We have a little bit longer that we're going to try and get to the questions while we're live. Otherwise, if you're tuning in later, feel free to leave your question and we will get back to you. This is from Naomi. She asks, there have been many people begging on the streets and near Highway 85. Can anything be done for safety?
As long as they are out of the public right-of-way, they have a right to be there. If they're in the street, if they're impeding traffic, something along those lines, endangering themselves or endangering others, then we can handle that with a phone call.
Okay. So they should call the police department if they're concerned.
Call the police department of the non-emergency number.
Great. Another question we get asked often is, how do I make a complaint about weeds or trash in my neighbor's yard?
Again, we can go to the request tracker on the city website and report that. You can also call in here and the call will be routed to the proper person, usually our CSO unit, Community Service Officer unit. They're the ones who handle the code enforcement complaints as well as animal control calls.
Great. So I know community policing is important to the Brighton Police Department. Can you tell us a little bit about that model and why that's important?
Well, we talk about a partnership between the police department and the community. That doesn't always exist and hasn't always existed in the past. Here at the Brighton Police Department, we pride ourselves on that. We actually make that part of our hiring process. We provide applicants with information, and we have them come back to us with a homework project, talking about community policing and their beliefs and what strikes them about it. That partnership with the community is important because the community are the eyes and ears of what we see. That's where the calls come from. And in addition to that, problem solving is one of the things that we stress with officers. Let's not go back to the same problem over and over and over again. Let's try to figure out a way to stop the problem and to remedy that and come up with a plan that works for everyone, including us and the community.
Great. And so you've been with the police department for a while. How have you seen the community change and kind of public safety change in the community?
Well, one thing is it's grown a lot, about tripled in size in that time. And with that comes a lot of new faces. I know 30 years ago you could walk into a place and you'd always see someone you knew, and it's not always that way anymore. A lot of people have moved here from out of state, from the Denver metro area, from even south of the metro area, and it's been a culture change. It's been a culture shift. Not to mention, we go from a small town to such a large town of almost 40,000 people. Traffic concerns and quality of life concerns, and our schools have grown, and all the things that go along with all of those areas of the community.
You mentioned schools, and I know we have our school resource officers that are in the schools. Can you talk about their role and why that's important?
School resource officers, some people believe that school resource officers are only there for enforcement, and that's not the case. There are a lot of things going on. Our school resource officers can be teachers and counselors, provide resources for kids who are in need, provide resources for parents. They also provide training for parents and kids on things drug-related, gang-related, anything that affects the kids in the schools.
And I believe a couple years ago, you all implemented the Be Right On program, which kind of replaced the traditional DARE program.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
The Be Right On program is something that we put together here. With DARE, DARE's been around since the early 80s. What we did with the Be Right On program is we geared that more towards what our youth are seeing now. Social media, marijuana use with the advent of legal marijuana, other pressures and stressors, sexual assault, harassment, bullying, those things that we want to teach our kids about now that are the things that affect them now.
Kim, talk to us. There's quite a few partnerships with Commerce City. Why is it important to have that relationship with our neighboring community, and why did we begin to partner with them?
Well, I think both city councils charged the chiefs then to find these collaborative efforts that we could, again, increase our staff to provide more services across these shared borders that we have. I can say in terms of victim services, I think in 2013, each respective units had about, I would say, about 450 call-outs and served just under 2,000 victims. And in 2018, we served almost 4,000 victims, and we were on scene with victims 1,100 times.
Wow.
So that's like a huge increase, and really shows what a great idea to kind of combine our resources.
And what do the victim advocates that you work with, what do they get from serving in that role? What's the benefit of doing what they do?
Right. So a lot of the victim advocates, especially the volunteers and staff, just say it's really great to give back to their community. Some of them talk about when they had an experience that somebody was there for them. Other people talk about how important it is to give to the community that they live in. And so, I mean, it takes a really healthy person to want to walk into meeting someone sometimes at their darkest moments and kind of walk them through this process, and really just letting them know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's great. We have a question from Bella. She says 12th and Bridge is dangerous. Any chance of putting lights? And that might be more of a streets question, but if someone is concerned about an intersection, what should they do?
Well, you can contact the police department, and we can pass the information along. You can call the streets department. You could also contact your representative council person from that ward, and they can pass that along to through the proper channels.
Great. And what would you say the officers spend most of their time doing each day?
Well, it depends on what the officer's assignment is, but if we're talking about the officers on the street, a lot of it's patrol, traffic enforcement, investigating crashes, and just dealing with the everyday things that go on, shoplifts and those kind of things in the community, among the more serious calls.
Great. Well, I think we've gotten through most of our questions, but I just wanted to give you each an opportunity. If there's anything I missed that you want to make sure you tell our residents about. Chief, anything?
I just want to say that we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If anyone is in need, please give us a call for whatever reason, any reason. Also, again, being the eyes and ears of the community, I would encourage folks to call us if they see something, even if they're not sure there's something wrong there, to please let us know.
Great. Kim, anything that we missed that you want to make sure people know about?
Well, so I don't know if there's really anything that we missed, but I think the one thing I'd like to say is, thank you to the Brighton community for really leaning into the police department and helping us with the great projects and the programs and things that we do, because without the communication and cooperation within the community, we wouldn't be successful.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are joining us later and have a question, please feel free to still leave your question in the comments, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. And we will be back next month for another edition of Talk to Us Tuesday. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Have a good day.